What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at Tonalaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of Tonalaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Tonalaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tonalaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. This episode is also brought to you by Meet Gabby, the voice AI built for law firms. Gabby answers your phones 24/7, qualifies leads, and books consultations so you never miss another client. Imagine cutting intake time in half or giving every caller a 5-star experience. That's the power of Meet Gabby. Learn more at meetgabby.com. Mention the Lead Counsel Podcast. You can also hit me up, and I'm glad to make an introduction to the owner. Today's episode features a friend of mine, Craig Goldenfarb. Craig is out of Florida. He runs Gold Law. He's just an amazing all-around great guy. I'm super excited to have him on. Just a little bit of history about him. He founded the firm in 2002. He's the CEO, and he is now a serial entrepreneur. And he's also the founder of one of my favorite legal masterminds that I attend yearly, the 7-Figure Attorney Summit. So welcome, Craig. And you've been an 8-figure attorney, grossing over 10 mil a year.
Yes, that's true.
So it's no small feat what you've done. And there's a lot I want to go through today. But give me the journey from where you started when you first opened up to the 8-figure threshold. Because I know there are people listening that want to be 7-figure attorneys. And I know you run, your mastermind on that. But just give us a snapshot of the road to 10 mil.
Sure. I think really the key to it is that you've got to identify early what your goals are. And do you want to be a full-time attorney? Do you want to be a full-time business person? Or do you want to be somewhere in the middle? And most lawyers want to be somewhere in the middle because they became lawyers for a reason, which is to actually have clients and deal with cases. I wasn't really sure my first several years where I wanted to be on that continuum, lawyer versus entrepreneur. But after 5 or so years, by the time I was in my early 30s, I realized I really was good at business and I was decent at being a trial lawyer, but I wasn't all that happy. And if you're able to be mindful enough in your 30s to figure out where your path of happiness lies and you point your compass in that direction, then if you're lucky, you'll get there. And if you work to get there, you'll get there. So in my early 30s, I knew I wanted to become on one end of the continuum, which was a full-time businessman. I did not want to practice law anymore at some point. Now, I say it's okay to be anywhere on that continuum. You can do 50% law if you love law and you want to keep being a lawyer. But identifying where you want to be is kind of the key. And then taking all the action steps necessary to get to where you want to be with your combination of being a business person versus being a lawyer. And I ended up being a 100% business person.
And I'm following in those footsteps. I made the decision a long time ago as well. So give me some of the core strategies that you employed to get to where you're at right now. If you had to pick like your top 5 strategies.
Well, I think it's where you focus your personal growth, what you spend your time doing. If you're stuck in more than 50% of the time working in law, you cannot get to 8 figures. That's just an opinion. Or it's a real struggle because you're limiting your ability to deal with your business. If you're spending more than 50% of your time on cases or law, you can't develop the leadership skills or the management skills or the CEO skills necessary to get to 8 figures. If you believe that your life purpose is to continue to deal with cases, then you have 2 choices. You can either hire a COO or a CEO that can get you to 8 figures, or you got to stop dealing with cases. and then you can do it yourself. So I started building skill sets that were related to leadership, business organization, business management, which allowed me to spend 100% of my time on those things. So, only 7-8 years ago, I learned about the concept of middle management. And when I had about 30 people, 30 employees, maybe 35 employees, some business owner started talking to me about what supervisors were. And what's funny is that every other industry learns this like the first day that they're in business. You learn what a manager is or a supervisor. In law, how often do law firms have someone whose job title is manager or supervisor? Not that often necessarily. You have to learn it. So it was literally within the last decade that I started putting in layers of middle management. So you have 3 paralegals, maybe. You get up to 3 or 4, and now you need someone to manage the paralegals. And it shouldn't be a lawyer, because in a lot of law firms, a lawyer manages the paralegals and does a crappy job because they're a lawyer. So that's where you learn about the concept of middle management at various departments of your firm. So within the last decade, I now have 13 people in middle management, whether they're supervisors or managers of some sort. And those people then report to the C-level employees, C being executive level. And so one of the keys to getting to high 7 or 8 figures is just realizing the concept of middle management. Because if all you have is low-level employees and then high-level employees, you can't grow because nobody's managing the low-level employees efficiently. So one concept that I realized relatively too late was the concept of middle management. Every time I hire a supervisor or middle-level manager, I make more money and my business grows because it allows the capacity of the high-level people to grow. So that was one concept that was just absolutely mind-blowing. And what's funny is that every other business, whether it's a shoe store or 7-Eleven or gas station, knows the level of middle management, but us brilliant lawyers have never heard of it before. So it's really funny how little we know as businessmen. So that's certainly a concept that I wanted to reinforce into getting to 8 figures. And the second is really working on yourself. I mean, I lectured right after Alex Rodriguez, the baseball player. So I was on the stage right afterwards, and it was pretty impressive. And he said that at his stage in real estate, he's a billionaire now. And, he was the best baseball player in the world for a while. And now he's a billionaire real estate investor. And he said he spends up to 10% of his income on self-improvement.
Wow.
Now, that guy's a billionaire. And he still has dozens of coaches, just like you do when you're a professional athlete, for various parts of your life. I'm like, that guy earns so much money, it's crazy, but he still spends up to 10% of his money improving himself. So being a lifelong learner and having a humility enough to learn that you always should be growing, and then spending the money and the resources to continue to grow is something that really has taken a long time for me to realize the value of. But I have like 6, 7 different people in my world who I pay a lot of money to help me, that they know more about various things, whether it's a nutritionist, a psychologist. There's so many people, business coach, life coach. All these people can offer something and they cost money, but you have to be able to afford that. So I started with 1. I had a coach at Atticus at one point, and that's the only coach I had. Now I have 6 or 7. So the concept of humility enough to realize that you can always engage the brilliance of others is just, it really allows you to grow as a person and therefore as a businessman.
That is awesome. And you know me, I love metrics because I always try to figure out like the science of what you do, right? So when you throw out a metric like 10%, that's an awesome formula for anybody to follow, right? Like at whatever income level you're at. I did a post on LinkedIn. I did a poll and I said, who believes in coaching? And I think like 35, 40 people answered it. One of the options was who believes in coaching. Then several people, their response was it's a waste. And then the third was, I would do it, but it's too expensive. And that was a fascinating category to me because I know everybody that follows me. I have like 8,000 followers, whatever. But a lot of the people that responded to the poll are people that I know personally. I know their income level. And I know that 10% of that, they could easily afford that first coach if it was $15,000. And I was curious, why would you work for a law firm or any other business and not invest in yourself? In other words, if I worked for you, if you hired me to be whatever, I come down to Florida, I'm not going to come to you and say, Craig, invest in me. I would probably pull the trigger myself, deliver more value, and you're going to pay me more money, right? Because you're not going to want to let me go. So I love that metric. And man, the wisdom of the middle management piece is something I've recently discovered as well in my quest to get to that 8-figure mark. And yeah, it's really solid foundational wisdom. So that's awesome.
And you asked for 5, I'll give you a third one. Yeah. Every lawyer, we all believe we're bright and that we can do everything better than anybody else. And that's just, I guess that's natural human instinct, especially if you're intelligent or you're a professional. And so the struggle with delegation and what you can delegate and actually really working on your blocks to delegating And taking it on as a challenge is one of the biggest limitations of business growth there is. And I am incredibly type A and incredibly OCD and a control freak. So if you combine all of that together, then the blocks for delegation are just insurmountable unless you really take it on something that is, it's not a should, it's a must. Tony Robbins talks about shoulds versus musts. As soon as you convert a should to a must and you really buy it into the must, then it's got new power. I must lose weight or I'm going to die. I must delegate or I'm never going to earn what I want to earn. It's not a should. It's a must. It's an imperative. And when it comes to delegation, if you believe, and you're right, that you can do it better than everybody else, and you stick to that, you can't grow. Because no matter what it is, there's someone who can do it 80% as well as you can. And if you can be satisfied that it can be done 80% as well as you, and you can swallow that, and you can really buy into it, then you can delegate much of what you do. Not all of what you do necessarily, but much of what you do. And I still believe in my ego part of my brain, which is a curse, that I can do everything better than everybody else. Because you may never lose that belief. And it may be true. Let's pretend it's true, that you're the best at everything in your law firm. Just accept that it's true, even though it's not. If you can accept that and go, but if I really want to reach 8 figures, I've got to let anything that someone else can do 80% as well as me go and give it to somebody else and create a structure by which you can check in on it, whatever it is, then you can give it up. And you should give it up. So one of the techniques I used for this is I had my executive team create a job description for me. They created my job description. I hated it because they took everything away from me and they gave me like 10 things. Literally, they reduced my life to 10 things. Here's what you're responsible for. We're writing your job description, Craig. And I had to sign off on it, which was painful. And we negotiated it, which was painful. But we got it down to 10 things and I had to sign it. And now when I dip my ridiculous toe in something that's beyond my job description, they literally say, that's not in your job description, Craig, get out of this. And I give them the power to say that. So if I start looking at a case, say, why didn't you take that depo? They're like, that's none of your business. It's not part of your job. Get out. And they're right. I shouldn't be looking at cases. I may talk to them about the ultimate settlement value of a case just for fun, but I'm not going to get in the nitty-gritty about what depo they took or what witnesses they're calling at trial, because that's not in my job description. So if you can empower your folks to hold you accountable to various things, that's a leader. And that's how you can create a big company and create your own job description, but give it to somebody else to do.
That's awesome. I'm laughing because this is something I'm struggling with right now. Like literally, I like to socialize. I'll walk around, say hello in the morning, but I invariably want to delve into a question about a case. Hey, how's it going? And Janira will literally walk out of her office. You know Janira, you've met her before.
I do.
You're not here to talk about cases with them. Our attorneys that handle these cases will give you the macro when you need the macro. And it's tough. It's really tough. I love that exercise that you just recommended. I may go back and have them create a job description for me.
I'll tell you, it's painful, Tom, because it reduces you to one page, but it's high-level stuff. I mean, part of it is philanthropist, right? Or, be community liaison. I mean, that's rather broad, and it has no detail in it. So it freaks me out because it doesn't satisfy me as far as a job description. But that is true. I'm a community liaison and a philanthropist. That's part of what I need to do to grow my business. And that's crazy because I thought I was a lawyer or maybe even a CEO. But they reduced me down to business generation, philanthropy, all these broad terms that have nothing to do with anything I do all day. Or supposed to.
but your highest best use, right?
It's my highest best use. Absolutely. Yep.
Sure. Quick break to thank Meet Gabby, the voice AI that answers your phone, screen leads, and books consults 24/7. They'll even send out retainers if the person on the other end of the phone asks for a retainer. If intake is slowing you down, check out meetgabby.com. This episode is supported by Tonalaw, a modern law firm built on integrity and innovation. Learn how they're changing the game at tonalaw.com. Attorney referrals accepted from across the country. You'll see what it's like when you send us a case. You'll have some happy clients. So dig down a little bit for us on, because I know a lot of PI related, personal injury related people will be listening to this, strategies. And I know you have a lot of these for client acquisition and retention. If you had to, again, use the 80-20 rule, where would you put the bulk of your focus as somebody who's 10 years behind, 20 years behind you in terms of client acquisition and retention? Because that retention is marketing to your existing client base, right? You're doing a good job, et cetera. So,
well, the first is making a distinction between the two. which is that client acquisition is a totally separate department, so to speak, or separate strategy as to client retention, because they're two different pools. Client acquisition is new people. I call them new people to your world. Client retention is taking your existing client base or database and then making them fans. And when they become fans, they become referral sources. So one is new, one is old. And if you take everybody knows the Morgan & Morgan example. So Morgan & Morgan doesn't necessarily make all their clients happy and doesn't necessarily get great results in some situations. I'm comfortable saying that because we get a lot of their clients that fire them. So their business model is client acquisition, which is we'll pay the average cost per case for client acquisition because we've got that down to a science. But client retention isn't that important, even though I think it should be. Client retention and making them our fans is less important to us than client acquisition. Now, I think that's a flawed business model, although they're super successful. I think you can do both. You can focus on client acquisition and then take all those clients that you've got and make them your biggest fans and make them your referral sources. And I get 23% of my clients in 2022 from existing or former clients. Now, that's with a multiple seven-figure marketing budget. I still get 23% of my cases for free,
right.
which is
repeat
from my repeat business
right,
or
right.
that clients refer me their friends or relatives.
Right.
I call that almost free. It's
right.
not free because we have to have client retention programs and treat our clients great and hire great staff and treat them well. So it's not technically free, but it's a lot cheaper than television and digital and radio and billboards, which I also do. So I guess if we talk about client acquisition first, I would agree that TV and billboards and some of the stuff that I still do are a much higher cost of client acquisition than the newer stuff that I also do. So if I were a baby lawyer or I were 30 years old right now, I would definitely not start with TV or radio or billboards because that is a branding move that has taken me 20, 25 years to establish. And I'm well branded now. So I still do it because I'm very well branded on TV, on billboards, etc. So I'm not going to give it up, but I would not start today with mass media. I absolutely would not start. Your cheapest new cost per case acquisition is digital. 100%. And we're starting to leave our mass media budgets static, meaning I'm not spending more on TV every year. I'm spending about the same or less. My billboards are staying about the same or less. My radio, my bus benches, all the mass media are staying at about the same or less. But I'm increasing significantly my digital budget. And the digital budgets, the key to me, since I have no interest in learning anything about this, is that I go to enough seminars to learn who to hire.
Right.
And I think the lawyers who are in their 20s and 30s who grew up with this stuff and are comfortable learning it themselves are still making a mistake by learning it themselves. Because no matter how much time you spend, if you're running a business and practicing law, you don't have enough time to learn it well enough to do it as a full-time job. So when I started to go big on social media, I didn't delve into it and learn Google AdWords. I followed the book Who Not How, which is instead of deciding how do you do this, it's who do you hire to do this? Who Not How. It's a great book. And I said, how much do I pay them and where do I find them? I say the piece of advice is if the best form of marketing is digital, learn enough to hire. Don't do it yourself. If you are 30 and you're brilliant and you can do it yourself, still don't do it yourself. Even if you like it, because for $70,000, $60,000, you can hire another 23-year-old who can do it full time and has been doing it full time since they were 13 and can kill it on Google service ads and Google ad pay-per-click and all this stuff and get you a really low cost per acquisition per case. So digital is the way to go, but don't do it yourself. I really think it's a mistake, even if you're 35 and even if you know social media. I still think it's a mistake for you to do it yourself.
I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. I agree. I know you're familiar with attraction, so I do want to switch gears for a minute because some of the most amazing stuff I've seen you do is around key performance indicators and how to run your business like a business. And I think you're probably one of the best I've seen do it ever in the law firm space. If you had to pick your top 5 key performance indicators that, they parachuted in an envelope to Craig, who's stranded on a desert island, and said, Craig, here are your 5 KPIs. What would be the top 5 you would pick? Because I'm like you, I could have 90 to 100 and be happy about that. But the EOS implementer is like, pick your top 5.
What's funny is we use a software with EOS, and the software is called 90, the number 90.io. And one of the pieces of that software tracks has a section called 90.io.
Yeah, I use it too.
And it's great. So one of the little tabs there is your data section. So what we did is on the executive team, we decided that we were going to have 13 KPIs that were going to be the top. And those we measure annually. And I have them up right now. So we have 13. Now, I'll probably just pick 5 because you asked for or 5, but we call them the Magic 13 KPIs. And I did talk about them at my seminar, I believe, or at least I did one year. So we boiled it down to 13 because we have several different departments. And there are several sub KPIs, like I do have about 85 or probably more.
Yep.
But I mean, one of them is just, how many cases you signed up, right? I mean, that's inventory. So in any other business, you know how many pairs of sneakers you have in your store, right? If you're a sneaker store.
Right.
Right. So how can you not know how many sneakers just came in and how many sneakers you have? So one of them is how many you signed up. And we break that down by the month, by the quarter, and then by the year. So we monitor constantly how many cases you signed up. That's new inventory, right? So at a sneaker store, that's how many you got delivered from Nike, right? So that's new inventory. And then the next KPI is existing inventory. How many sneakers do you have on your shelves? Existing cases. How many do you have in your office? And then the third is how much profit do you earn per pair of sneakers, right? Then I'm drawing the sneaker analogy because it makes so much sense, right? It's a shoe store.
Right.
So how much do you earn? Do you earn $1 every time you sell a pair of sneakers? Or does a Nike pair get you $2, but an Adidas pair gets you $3? So the way you do that in a law firm is you break it down by practice area. So does a slip and fall earn you a profit of $1 and a car accident case earns you $2? Well, that's important because then you want to get more car accidents, right? So your Air Jordans earn you more of a profit than your Keds or whatever crappy pair of shoes you sell, right? So in a law firm, figure out your average fee per case per practice area. Average fee per case per practice area. What surprised me, and I reveal this secret to everyone I know in Florida at least, is that I earn more money on a slip and fall than I do on a car accident.
Yeah.
That's crazy because so many lawyers are arrogant. They're like, I only do car accidents because slip and falls have the reputation of low-end lawyers. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. Those are low-end lawyers. I'll take them, refer them to me. And why do I say that? Because I know that I earn more money on a slip and fall. And you only know that if you look at it,
right?
If you analyze it. So how much do you earn per case on each type of practice that you practice? And then I break that down a little further, pre-suit versus in litigation. And you can make lots of decisions based on all these metrics. So how much do you earn per sale of a case, whether you settle in pre-suit versus litigation? And I've memorized those numbers. I know that I'm just under $15,000 in fee for my pre-suit cases. That's very high across the country. That's high. The average is about $7,000 to $8,000 for a pre-suit case, and I'm double that. In litigation, I earn $94,000 per case as a fee. And we're at a 40%. So that means my average litigation case settles for $250,000. Why do I memorize these things? Because I have a business and I need to make business decisions based on things that I must know at the top of my head. If I have to look this stuff up, then my job description has not been completed. And one of the things in my job description is to know these top 13 metrics without having to look them up.
Right. 100%. And I have one more set of questions for you. Do you have any advice for young aspiring entrepreneurs or lawyer entrepreneurs that are, let's say, at the 15-year mark compared to like what your biggest accelerating needle mover was?
Yes, having the courage to befriend and to join groups. The number of people that are willing to help you is astronomical if you have the courage and the people skills to seek them out. And my friendship with people like you, people at groups like Masterminds, Atticus groups, it really is a somewhat narrow set of human beings who genuinely want to help others. But it's not too hard to find them these days. It used to be hard to find those human beings. But now with all these groups, whether it's masterminds or seminars, you can find people who really want to take an interest in helping you. And it may be listening to podcasts. It may be reading, but if you are a lifelong learner and you have some people skills, there are an immense amount of resources for you to grow. And I find that the people who are scared and the people who play small, there's a reason, because they're in their amygdala, they're fearful of something, and they don't allow themselves to think big or grow big or talk to people. And as someone who's in the intellectual space and teaching like I am, the people who really want to learn and get better are the people who do. And the people who befriend others and take advantage of those mentorships and relationships and reach out and ask questions are the people who win. And I don't just mean win monetarily. I just mean win in life, that they become happy because they're all about relationships and people. And there's a lot more people out there willing to help you, either for free or not for free, than you think there are. That's
fantastic advice. I would say, and I was talking to somebody, the person was talking to me about, hey, I'm interested in coaching, and they were right around that $1 million mark. And what kept coming up was the topic of fear. They must have used the word fear 5 times in that one call. And I said, well, you're at a crossroads, similar to what you just said. You're at a crossroads where you can't fear X, Y, and Z, X being people disappointing you or fear letting go of control, and build. So you either have to choose your desire to build is greater than your need to feel in control over situations that scare you, or stay a solopreneur or have like a small office, one attorney and 5-7 staff, or you're going to have to let go past the $1 million mark to then grow and scale a business.
Yeah, fear is the main blockade at that step. And, just like in a fork in the road, when you're facing that proverbial fork, you're scared of making the wrong decision because you have a decision to make. And the only thing that's preventing you on taking one path or the other is fear. And you've nailed it. It's the fear of delegation, the fear of letting go, the fear of control, the fear of failure. These are all fears. So every part of business growth for me involves a new challenge involving fear. And so each stage, I talk about 5 stages of law firm growth at my seminar, and each stage brings a different type of risk and a different type of fear. And in order to be able to identify those and work through those is what allows a person to progress, not only as a person, but as a business person. Just realizing what's out there as far as growing a business and what you could be at some stage, or even if you want to grow from just $1 million to $2 million, I mean, that's 2 times growth. That's amazing. Or if you want to go to 20 million or 50 million, whatever stage of growth you're at, it doesn't really matter. It just takes different skills and getting over fear.
And that's just it. Like, you talk about all of these different things. And I also know you've done a ton of work on yourself, right? With the meditation week that you spent at, awesome. A silent retreat, right?
Oh boy. Yeah.
So I really want to thank you. What you're doing is extremely valuable. It shows people a different way of the practice of law. And to me, a much better way, right? Like, you could take a vacation, you could have your nights and weekends back and build it like a business, or be the practitioner that wants to be the best trial lawyer around, but then find somebody who can do the business end of it if you're looking to build past pure technician role. So thank you, Craig, for coming on.
Well, Tom, thank you. My friendship with you has been amazing on a personal and professional level, makes my life richer. So I'm blessed to have friends like you, Tom.
Same, man. Same. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Tonalaw. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tonalaw is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. This episode is also brought to you by Meet Gabby, the voice AI built for law firms. Gabby answers your phones 24/7, qualifies leads, and books consultations so you never miss another client. Imagine cutting intake time in half while giving every caller a 5-star experience. That's the power of Meet Gabby. Learn more at meetgabby.com. Mention the Lead Counsel Podcast. You can also hit me up, and I'm glad to make an introduction to the owner.